So again, welcome to everybody. I love these meetings and love to see what all the wonderful connections that we make and how we support each other during the next couple of hours. So you can anticipate on this meeting today, we've got a couple messages from District Governor Jim, incoming District Governor Nelson, and then I've invited Trustee Greg Pod to join us with a message, and then a couple of you already have heard Doug and Maureen talking. They will be sharing a project that they have up in 5100 with us. A little bit of announcements going on at the district, and then I've got just a couple comments to make about district grants. We're kind of in a lull period for that. And then lastly, we'll go into the global grant section with Julie and those 5 proposals and votes. So that's what you can anticipate. So next I will welcome Jim to the stage here, if you will.
Good morning, everybody. So glad to be here. So glad to see this many people are interested in our efforts to do good in the world, create hope. How can we create more hope other than through our district grant efforts, whether it's locally, regionally, or worldwide? Really appreciate seeing you all here, and we're going to have a great morning. Thank you, Leanne.
Thanks, Jim. I echo that. It's going to be a great morning. Nelson, good morning, sir. How are you? Welcome back from IA.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's nice to be home, I'll tell you. But IA is just a wonderful experience. So thank you very much. And one of the things that I like to reiterate is that we are definitely stepping up as a district and as district leaders to make sure that we are presenting to all of you and to our Rotarians within our district the opportunities for continued learning, continued leadership training. And this is just yet another example of what we're doing today. There are 2 other examples coming up in the near future. The first one really is the Rotary Leadership Institute, and that is on March 16th and 17th in Eugene. And that's a great opportunity to really get a nice broad brush of all the different things that happens within Rotary. You can see the bigger picture and see how we as a district plug into each of those pieces. The second thing that we have coming up is the Club Leadership Assembly, and that is on April 13th in Cottage Grove. And that is a wonderful event where you can bring just about everybody in your clubs. This is a great opportunity for new members. It's a great opportunity for people who are new to roles within their club and perhaps not really sure about how it's supposed to work or what they need to know. It's all the president-elects will be there. And it's just a wonderful one-day event in Cottage Grove. And this is fully subsidized by the district. So there is no cost. We're also expecting quite a bit of youth to be there as well. And I think that this is going to be outside of the usual spring break. So I think this is going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody real soon. So thank you very much, Leanne.
Thank you, Nelson. I'm looking forward to those. Those are great events as well. Appreciate it. Okay, let me bring up, in fact, I'm going to stop this so we can see Greg here. Does this come through as the speaker for everybody, or do you need to do it on your individual devices?
Individual devices.
Okay, so I would encourage all of you to go up into the right-hand corner, particularly if you're on a laptop and you have the view up there. You can select, and I would ask you to select view at this point while we hear from Trustee Greg Pod. Just a little bit of lead in here. Greg is now the trustee that has our zones 26 and 27. This is my first year working at the zone level with Greg. And my partner, Susan Brentz, who actually had a working relationship with Greg before he switched to our zones, and I have appreciated his support and efforts on our behalf up to this point. So it's exciting for me to bring him for the first time to 5110 to meet all of you and engage in our wonderful grant programs here. So Greg, welcome. I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Leanne. It's wonderful to be with all of you, and especially all the Rotarians of District 5110. My apologies, I'm on the golf course, so all of my other 3 individuals I'm playing with are going to allow me to have a birdie on every hole that I miss. So I'll be with you as long as you'd like me to be. So Anyway, again, I have the great honor of being the trustee assigned to zones 26 and 27. The first thing that I need to do is sincerely congratulate your district and also your two paired zones. The one zone was number 2 in the world, and the other zone was number 5 or 6 in the world in giving. So the Rotary that is done in zones 26 and 27 is absolutely first class. And it's just truly an honor to be with all of you. And I also have the responsibility of being the trustee for zones 29 and 25B. So I basically have kind of west of the Mississippi, if you will. Leanne wanted me to talk about what a trustee does. Trustees are basically responsible for running the Rotary Foundation, be responsible for all of the income coming in, the expenses going out, all the grants, and certainly the investments. I, like a lot of trustees, and there are 15 trustees from around the world. 4 of those trustees are past presidents. So if you think about it, you've got 11 individuals from around the world that are non-past presidents. I also, like a lot of the trustees, have other assignments. I am the chair of the investment committee. So one of my responsibilities is making sure that the investments, and we have about $1.9 billion of investments, are performing properly. And so I do enjoy that. Also the chair of the Rotary Foundation Finance Committee. So as you can imagine, I do like numbers because I am a retired CPA. One of the things that I wanted to also let people know is that my assignment is a 4-year assignment. How I got selected to be a trustee is trustees are selected by the president-elect, and I was selected by President-elect at that time, Jennifer Jones, to be a trustee. So anyway, it was a great honor to be a trustee. It is a lot of work. It's as much work as when I was a director, but it's different kind of work. The foundation, as you can imagine, we're concentrated on gifts. We're concentrated on Arch Clump. We are certainly into helping manage the global grants that are done and the disaster grants that are being done out there. One of the things that I am working on quite a bit right now is I'm really concerned about the lack of information that exists in regard to this DDF rollover. To be real blunt with you, Rotary is not really prepared and has not educated Rotarians and district foundation chairs in regard to exactly how this rollover is going to work, how much money is going to be rolling over. And so I am working very, very extensively with staff. In fact, Monday I fly back to Chicago for a meeting with most of the staff that's involved in this particular area to kind of put together a game plan of education and also communication with Rotarians to try to make sure that we understand this DDF, why we have the DDF rollover situation happening, why we were having to spend the last money in first. I mean, there's all kind of issues that Rotarians need to be educated on, and including myself, because I want to make sure I understand exactly why we are doing what we're doing. At the present time, we've got around $42 million of DDF. The foundation is wanting that DDF to be drawn down, and that's why part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing. Some of the decisions that were made at the January meeting at the International Assembly, we looked at a lot of the numbers as to where we are midterm in regard to contributions. Our annual contributions are down a little bit from last year, but the good news is that our endowment numbers are up, which is really critical to our foundation. Endowment giving is going to be our future way that we're going to be able to fund the Rotary Foundation. We do have some challenges right now in funding our Rotary Foundation. That model needs to be looked at and needs to be tweaked a little bit if we're going to be able to continue funding the way we're doing it. Right now, we're having to take money out of the World Fund to fund the expenses of our Rotary Foundation, and that's not sustainable, and that's not the way that we should be doing that. So, Leanne, I'll be very happy to answer any questions anybody would like to have. I enjoy that part, to be honest with you, very, very much.
Great, thank you. And what I would encourage you all to do if you have a question for Trustee Greg is to put it into the chat box, and Tim is monitoring that for us. Actually, I see Julie's hand up. So Julie, why don't you go ahead and unmute and you can start us off.
Well, first of
Okay.
all, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We greatly appreciate it. And
My
we
honor.
hit on an issue that is very concerning in our district, and that is the spend down and what seems to us to be an irrational decision that we're counting the newest money first, as opposed to DDF that has been there for a while. I understand the rationale that we want folks to be spending the money and not sitting on it, and I completely agree with that. However, what you're really forcing all of us to do is spend all of our money right away instead of doing that in a more thoughtful way. So I really hope you can advocate for some kind of a change in that, or help us to really understand why that decision was made, because it seems like a very poor decision on this end.
You know, I would certainly agree with you there. This decision was made, I believe in 21, I believe, before I was a trustee, but I will make this comment to you. I asked that exact same question. Why are we forcing districts to spend their last money in first? Because you're really forcing those districts to spend a lot of money that just recently came in. When I asked our CFO, why is that being put in place, she made a comment to me, and I'm gonna repeat the comment that she said to me. And quite frankly, it made a little bit of sense. If you don't spend that last money coming in, you'll never stop the rollover. You'll continue to have this large rollover because that will go another 4 years before that being spent. And so what they're trying to do is get this $42 million down. They want Rotarians to do the work of Rotary. And I think it puts an unreasonable burden on Rotarians. I would agree with you 100%. Like I said, I'll be going back to Rotary headquarters on Monday and sitting down to see whether we can work a more workable plan for districts. We'll see what happens. I'm going to be reporting back to our your district foundation leadership, which, by the way, is what I consider some of the best in the world. And I'm just going to be trying to work through this to share the burden that it's putting on districts. I'm a real advocate for the districts, and I want to make sure that staff understands that this is putting a really large burden on the districts. So I appreciate you very much bringing that up.
Yeah, one thing I'd also like to be considered is the district's past history. So if it's a district that has really not spent their DDF and has been sitting on it for quite some time, maybe there's a different process for those, as opposed to districts like ours, where there's a regular expenditure of our DDF. Half of our money goes every single year to our district grants and is spent every year. The other half is, of course, dedicated to global grants, but we consistently every year fund global grants. A little bit of a slowdown during COVID because everyone had that slowdown. But, like for instance, today we're considering 6 different projects. So, I think that the past history of the district should be a factor that's considered in the policy.
I appreciate your comments, and I will certainly bring those back to staff. I will tell you, and you're exactly right, there's a lot of districts in the United States that have done an outstanding job in District 5110 is one of those that has simply done what they should be doing. They're spending that DDF the way that DDF should be spent. But you've got some areas of the world that are not doing that. A good example is Japan. Another good example is the Philippines. Another good example is Taiwan. Those particular districts have a substantial amount of DDF that's sitting in their bank account, if you will. And you might be right. We need to possibly look at districts that are making up a large portion of that 42 million and deal with them a little bit different than we do with other districts like yours that use the DDF properly. So thank you again for your comments. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie. Tim, do we have a couple other questions?
We do. From Eric Hudnett, he says, what's the impact of the disaster relief grants, and do you expect them to increase in the future?
Can you repeat it one more time, please?
What's the impact of our disaster relief grants, and do you expect them to increase in the future?
You know, that's a really good question. I will tell you one of the things that happened, and as you can imagine, I watch numbers very, very closely. We had about $15 million of disaster grants that went to Ukraine. We've got some other ones going to Turkey and some other areas, part of the world, but the biggest amount is going to Ukraine. One of the things that it did do is it cut down substantially, and I mean substantially, on the global grants that are being done. A lot of Rotarians were focusing on disaster grants as opposed to global grants, which again created another problem because that caused that DDF to be able to be raised to a higher level. Do I anticipate disaster grants to continue? Absolutely. You know, we've got around 32 areas of the world that are having all kind of issues. And the Rotary trustees have got to be sensitive to the needs and desires of Rotarians. If Rotarians want to do disaster grants, then guess what? We're going to do disaster grants. And so I see that disasters are going to continue to happen. I see Rotarians continue to wanting to help in those particular areas. And so, yes, I do see disaster grants continued on in the future. It's a great question.
Another question from District Governor-elect Nelson is that says we realize that the primary focus of the foundation is fundraising toward polio eradication. Is there a thought toward what will happen next?
Nelson, that's a great one. You know, I get asked that question all the time is what is next? And first of all, you know, I'm going to say this, we got to get done what we got to get done. We are close. We are holding our own, if you will, at 12 cases, 6 in Pakistan, 6 in Afghanistan. I'm on a polio call every month with Mike Crosby. He does a great job with that with Mike McGovern. And so we're getting very, very close. I will tell you, and this is just my opinion, I want to tell you what happened when I was on the board of directors. We brought all the trustees in, all the board in. There's 19 board members, 15 trustees. And we had a work session of what is the next project for Rotary when we have polio is eradicated. So if you think about it, we got 24 people in a room or 34 people in a room. You can imagine when everybody came up with their next project for Rotary, we had 34 projects. So that's part of the problem is when you bring a very passionate Rotarians together, you know, is it water? Is it environment? Is it maternal health? Is it economic development? You know, it goes endless as what our next project does. All of us on this call know that we thought polio was going to be handled in probably a 2 to 3 year period when we started this many years ago. We've been in it for 35 years. We didn't know what we didn't know. It's much more complicated than we thought it would be. So I think whatever the next project is going to have a beginning, and it's going to have an ending that we can say is an ending, not 35 years from now. This is my personal opinion, what I'm going to say here. I don't think that Rotary will ever have another corporate project. What I do think Rotary will do is we will take our 7 areas of focus, and we will take an area of focus, let's just say water for the sake of argument, and we will concentrate on water for maybe a 3 to 4 or 5 year period, and then maybe go on to one of our other areas of focus. I think that's where we may be going. But if you think about it, our organization, the umbrella that all of our areas of focus can fall under is peace in the world. And so again, it's a great question, Nelson. I don't have the answer, but I doubt that we will have another corporate project. So thanks again for that question. I really do appreciate it.
One more question. So we know that the match from the foundation to DDF is reduced to 80%. Ralph Christensen wants to know is if we increase that back again to 100%, if that would incentivize the use of DDF.
That's a great question. I will make this comment. Let me see, I can be nice here. When this 2021-20 area or year came up for Rotary, the Rotary Foundation got just slammed with global grants. In fact, it got so slammed, we had to take money from Rotary in the amount of $7.5 million. And we had to take an additional $7.5 million out of the World Fund. That extra $15 million just to fund the grant demand that was there. The trustees at that time needed to cool it down, if you will, because it was such a demand on the World Fund. With our investment returns, we were not being able to keep up. And so that particular match of going down to 80% was needed to make sure that we preserve that liability that we've got to do the matching of these global grants. Do I think that will revert back to the 100% or another different percentage? No, I don't. I really don't. I'm sorry to say that. A lot of people ask me about the 5%. I don't think that's going to go away either. One of the things that we've really got to figure out is the utilization of DDF and global grants. One of the things that I've done as a trustee is we have got to be able to do a better job of matching our World Fund. And so one of the things that I've asked staff to do from a financial standpoint is to do a 5-year projection on our World Fund. I learned a long time ago that you can't manage something that you don't measure. So we are now trying to get a better handle on how to use our World Fund. And if we can get a better handle on it, maybe we can make some adjustments to that match and maybe that 5%. But sitting right where I'm sitting right now, I just don't think that we're going to be able to revert back to a different matching program than we've had in the past. I hope that helps. Maybe not the answer you're looking for, but I hope that helps.
No, yeah, I have one last question, and then we'll let you get on with your golf game.
I just had 3 birdies. What are you talking about?
So with all that $42 million sitting out there, and if clubs get excited about global grants and spending that down, won't that overwhelm the system again? I mean,
That is such a great question. I feel so sorry for that staff. The individual that runs that, Meredith, I'm going to be meeting with her on Monday, but they've got their hands full. They've got, good grief, they've got over 1,000 grants in their inventory right now that they're trying to process. And I think one of the issues that will come up, and I do agree with you, when you have districts start using that DDF, you're going to put a lot of pressure on staff to get those global grants done. And I think you're exactly right. I am deeply concerned about the pressure that's going to be put on the staff with that. So you can see there's a lot of things that we're trying to manage, if you will, and it's not always easy.
Well, Greg, thank you again on behalf of 5110 and all of our Rotarians and leadership here. Thank you for joining us. Tell your foursome we appreciate them sharing you with us for a little bit this morning. And I'm hoping because you were with us, you're going to like shoot your age today. That would be great. Yeah, all those birdies.
Well, Leanne, I do want to say this. If there's anything that I can do for District 5110 in regard to the foundation or other issues, please let me know. I'll always get on an airplane. It's very cheap for me to get on an airplane from Phoenix or Colorado and come there. If you have a foundation dinner, $1 million dinner, even a foundation seminar, I'd be very honored to be at 5110, any kind of events that you have. So it'd be an honor to be there for you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Go have a good round.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
So we move on in the agenda. One of the things I like about this meeting, and one of the things I want to make sure we do during it, is to do some education. And I know that, I mean, oftentimes it's good to be reminded and hear it again, but many of you are joining us maybe for the first time. And Greg brought up a couple of points. I was making some notes as he was talking that I just wanted to add some clarity to. So I'm going to, because I'm going to take a few minutes of our agenda and do that. He talked, a couple of things came up. The disaster fund, Eric brought up that. He mentioned endowment. We talked about Polio Plus and then the annual fund. So as you and I are making our choices to donate to the Rotary Foundation, we do have choices. Most of us, and I'm a big proponent of it, direct our money to the annual fund share, because that's what 3 years later what comes back to us, so we can do our district and our global grants. And there's a formula to that that I won't get into right now. We can also choose to donate to Polio Plus, and we have several, I don't remember how many, Nelson, hundreds of us that are members of the Polio Plus Society, which 5110 started, and Del Gray and Harriet Schloer, and that is now worldwide in the world of Rotary.
They're not exclusive.
They're
not exclusive. You can donate to both.
Well, yeah, no, Tim has reminded me they're not mutually exclusive. You can direct your money there. Greg mentioned the endowment fund, so it's a permanent fund. And so what, the corpus is not touched. They're building towards $2.025 billion by 2025 has been the goal. Obviously, you can direct your money there to provide into perpetuity the stability of the Rotary Foundation going forward. And then lastly, the disaster fund. I don't remember what year this came out, but I really thought it was brilliant, because there would be a fire or a tornado, hurricane, flood, tsunami somewhere, and Rotarians wanted to give and support that. And there was no structure in place to do that within the world of Rotary. So by putting a disaster fund in place, you and I knew exactly where the money could go and make sure that it would get put to use. In fact, District 5110 back in 2020 with the Alameda and the Detroit fires, we tapped into disaster fund twice. Each district where the disaster occurs can ask for $25,000 increments money from the disaster fund to mediate what has happened. Right now, there is $149,000 sitting in that disaster fund. So again, depending upon what motivates you, you can donate to that when you hear something, and then that district can tap into that My Word checkbook to help provide relief to the people who are impacted by that. Something very different happened this last year, and Greg mentioned that as well with Ukraine. When in February, when the war broke out a year and a half ago, Rotarians responded, and they donated so much money to the disaster fund. Actually, now it's over $16 million, and it's closed now. that obviously following the rule that a district in $25,000 increments can, deal with a disaster. I did the math. There's one district, it's 2232 in Ukraine, that they would have been managing over 600 disaster grants. That's impossible. So the trustees opened it up to the rest of the world. And that's when many of us, including our district and our zone pairings, participated in some very impactful. We did over $1 million worth out of the West Coast in support of Ukraine. So that's another fund that's very purposeful there. Lastly, I'll take the aging question. Greg talked about a little bit. I remember as much as 65 million that was being just held by all the different, there's 535 districts in the world, I think, something close to that. At one time there was about $65 million. You and I don't give money to have it being held. And as he said, a lot of the Asian countries, it's part of their culture to pass on more money to the next district governor than what they started with. And so there's been a push, and now this very formal program in place that we need to spend down our balance of district designated funds. Half of that money that comes back, I mentioned earlier, from the annual fund share that we use for district and global grants. And that the first period of that ends June of 2026. So I can assure you that the foundation leadership, we know how the formula works, and we're looking at that and how we can best support you and the work that you're trying to do, as well as manage that money wisely. So there's my little pitch on to add clarity to some of what Greg said. So my next pleasure is to welcome Doug Taylor and Maureen Wheeler from 5100. That 5100, here's some more passive education. Our district here, we run up to bump up into 5100, just south of Salem, go clear out to Lakeview, over to the coast and down into Northern California. 5100 goes north of us up into Washington and over to Pendleton. So it's a great pairing. And as I mentioned, Tim and I have known Doug and Linda for over 10 years now, I think, since they were part of the same district governor class and all the opportunities that went on there. So over the last 10 years, I've become a real proponent of Rotarian collaboration and partnerships and relationships, because that just leverages our skills and our passion in so many different directions. And I will remind all of you, I mentioned disaster grants for Ukraine back in October, well, not last October, the prior October. Grants Pass introduced us to a physician in Poland, Kasia, who had been an exchange student of the Rotary Club of Grants Pass. And they'd maintained that relationship. Gosh, it must have been over 3 decades. And she has her own family now. And they reached out to her and said, are you okay? And is there anything we can do? The Rotary Club of Grants Pass and the community raised about $100,000. And with her help, because she's now a physician, they were able to get medical equipment into Ukraine. Hearing that, this district, we spearheaded a $175,000 ambulance along fully equipped to send it to them as well. So that's just one example of how we leverage our friendships and our relationships and the connections that we have. So what's relevant to this morning is when Tim and I were visiting with Doug and Linda, he shared with me a project that their district is doing. And I thought, I want to give them the opportunity to talk about what they've done with all of you, and maybe inspire you, give you another idea of what you can be doing as well. So Dr. Green, it's my pleasure to have you join us this morning. And Doug, I'm queued up with your video. You just let me know when you're ready, okay?
Okay, Leanne, thank you so much. And, I've always felt that District 5110 was such an impressive district. So congratulations to all of you. 78 people on a Saturday morning. It must be a Rotary meeting. So thank you so much for inviting us to share our project about the Wish Prints. So Maureen is unable to hear the audio, but I have her on a telephone link. So I think that'll work just fine. So I'll speak for a couple of minutes, then Maureen, and then we'll ask you to do the video, Leanne, and then we'll offer Q&A. So, many clubs, including many of yours, have done dictionaries and books to schools, have given them out. What's unique about our project is that the authors literally signed over the rights to this book to the Beaverton Rotary Club and the Beaverton Rotary Foundation to print the book as a totally charitable literacy goal-setting project. So we have what we call the Dream Team, which is a play on the book. Maureen and I and a couple other people have been at this for 2.5 years. Working through the legalities, the scope, the methods, the best education methods with the kids. So the project brings a bilingual Spanish-English Wish Prince book, Let's Live Our Dreams, to the 3rd grade students in Beaverton School District. The book's purpose is to help students learn to set goals based on 5 simple daily steps to develop a mindset and skills to achieve their goals and live their dreams. It might be something as simple as they want to do well in PE. They want to help a grandparent. They want to do more chores. They want to learn a new skill. The secondary objectives, of course, is the bilingual aspect, Spanish to English, and for some, English to Spanish, including parents. Each page of the Wish Prints features colorful graphics and English and Spanish rhyming text. That was a tricky translation to get the English translated into Spanish and make it rhyme. It was a totally Rotary project. Everybody involved has been involved with Rotary. So Janet is the principal creative contributor along with her partner, Mark Graham. Janet attended Beaverton schools, trained in opera at the Boston University College of Fine Arts, and studied opera at the University of Music and Performing Arts in Vienna, Austria, through winning a Rotary International Ambassadorial Scholarship in 1987, nominated by Beaverton Rotary. Now, for those of you that may not remember ambassadorial scholarships, which no longer exist, it was around $30,000. So that was in 1987. You can imagine the impact that it had. She has performed at the Kennedy Center and on Broadway and is a star in Europe. She is living her dream. This project is one way that she is giving back to Rotary. She gives back in Germany and she's given back here. That others might live their dreams too. The Wish Prince was first written in German and has been presented to 4,000 students in Germany. In 2019, an English language version of the Wish Prince was produced, and Beaverton Rotary Club helped give over 500 copies to Beaverton school kids. We got a lot of great feedback from that distribution, which gave us the idea, as many of you know that are in touch with schools, many schools are bilingual or immersion schools. And so the feedback was, we'd love it if it was bilingual. So that was the idea that we clamped onto, and that hence the current book. So in a second, I'm gonna turn it over to Maureen to talk about how we approach the schools and what we do at the schools. Then we'll have a short video and Q&A. Let me introduce Maureen. Maureen is our foundation vice president. She spent her career with Beaverton School District, most recently as communications officer. And so Maureen, take it away. Are you, did you unmute?
Can you hear me now?
There.
All right. I'm sorry that I've had to. Is this sound coming through? Okay. I'm sorry that I've had to find a different way around the technical difficulties I'm having. I'm in San Diego visiting my mother. So just wanted to tag on to what Doug has shared with you. A very exciting program. We've been very, very hard at work at it, and we're so happy to be able to share it with you. We obviously have lots of partnerships and lots of programs that we do with the Beaverton School District. It is one of our key areas of focus in our for the Rotary Club of Beaverton. And so I, as have been a 30-year employee of the school district, I have many relationships. Of course, those relationships change now. I've been retired for about 3 years, almost 4. And so those relationships help us keep this project moving forward. We have 34 elementary schools in the Beaverton School District, and 15 of those schools are Title I schools. And that was the focus of how we made our approach starting last spring to present an assembly format, presenting the book to the children, presenting a video, and actually the author came and did 2 of the assemblies, 2 of the 3 assemblies we did in April and May. And very well received. And we're going to be doing scheduling for this spring. Fall is not a great time. We discovered for schools. Obviously, in September, they're just getting back to school. They're getting kids back in the routines. In October, they've got conferences and parent conferences and what have you. And then you get into the holidays, right? November and December. So what we've tried to do is, take that feedback and that constant learning with a project that you all are very familiar with. You have to adapt as you go along. We approach the schools and in an invitational manner and ask if they'd be interested in a 30-minute assembly. It's 3rd graders. We'd be, it could be just Rotarians, because we do have a Rotarian program, as well as when the author is in town and Janet comes to town for a couple months at a time and is able to help us. But we've got to be able to do this on our own, kind of like the dictionary project. It was totally Rotary focused, and we went into each of the classrooms and did that. So I send out an email and kind of lay out what the program is and what we hope to achieve and what the book is about. And we talk about the setup needs. It's very simple. We just, we do have a jump drive that has the video that they can run through their program. Most of the gyms and auditorium spaces that we use have that kind of equipment. So it's not a big ask of the schools. But there's also a song that goes along with this program. And Janet and Mark Grimm, the authors, created a song. And when it's possible, we work with the music teachers, ask the principal if they would like to learn the song, because they love to sing it together with the author or with the Rotarians when we do the assembly. It doesn't take much to set up. We come with the books. We come with a couple of other props, I should say. That we've got some crystals. They kind of play a part in this of living your dreams and lighting up and being a focus. And the kids just really love the 30 minutes in and out, very quick. We have Rotary volunteers that come and help to present. And we have one of our Rotarians is bilingual and Spanish speaking, and she has helped to wrap up our assembly and to tie the end together about this bilingual book and living your dreams. And so she speaks to the children in both English and Spanish, and it's been very, very well received. So we do a lot of follow-up, and then afterwards we ask for some feedback after the presentation, and we try to keep it really simple, but we want to get as much feedback as we can so that we can continue to learn and improve our approach. But we're really excited about this book and the potential for it. We're excited to maybe work with other Rotary clubs around the state of Oregon, and we're thrilled to be here with you this morning, so we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Shall we do, Maureen, shall we do the video first and then give people a chance to What was the question?
Doug says yes.
That'd be great.
Doug says yes. All right, let me pull that up.
Hello, I am Janet Schwatal, and I have had the to live my dream, performing and producing musicals and concert events on stages all around the world. Years ago, as a young woman from the west coast of the USA, I had a lot of help to bring this dream to life. Through a Rotary Ambassadorial Scholarship, I was able to complete my education in Europe and jumpstart my career. Now I want to help others to achieve their dreams. In collaboration with the same Rotary Club in Beaverton, Oregon that sponsored me, together we have created the Wish Prince Project. The primary purpose of the Wish Prince Project is to build literacy and help students, kindergarten through 3rd grade, learn to set goals by following 5 simple daily steps, which are provided in a children's book called The Wish Prince, Let's Live Our Dreams. Through a fantasy story of the Wish Prince, his trusted knight, and his magical swan, the message, Let's Live Our Dreams, comes alive for young and old, giving school-aged children and their caregivers the opportunity to share their deepest hopes and dreams, and so find steps together to make these dreams a reality. As a dream team, we practice and develop the mindset and skills necessary to achieve goals. Using the principles in the Wish Prince book and supplemental learning materials, we teach tools and steps that students need to take to make their dreams come true. The first edition of our book is a bilingual Spanish-English version. Young students can learn to read and practice while transitioning from one language to another. Our goal is to serve with no out-of-pocket costs to either schools or families. All of the original fixed costs to start this project have been handled, so that Rotary clubs joining our mission can have books produced to distribute directly in their own areas. We are very excited for new Rotary clubs and dream teams to participate. This is yet another wonderful way that Rotary gives forward to the community. We welcome you to join us, develop your own dream team, and share this most valuable knowledge and our message. Let's live our dreams together.
There you go. Okay, Maureen, I want the dress. My gosh.
So, Leanne, I might just make a brief comment. So before we get into Q&A, what we are prepared to do in Beaverton Rotary is support clubs and coach them as to if they want to adopt this project. And we should point out that 2 pages in the book are devoted to Rotary. So it tells all about Rotary, our club, and what Rotary is all about on 1 page, and then in Spanish. But we're willing to mentor teams that want to do that. We have video support that we can provide. We can provide our sample run of show minute by minute as to how we approach the schools and how we perform on the day of the presentation. Contacts for printing the book at a Rotary-owned printer in Salem. And we are able to provide sample books to people so you can see if there's interest and funding in your community. So with that, what questions do you have?
Perfect. I'm going to turn to Tim. And this is the part where my mouth doesn't move, but a voice comes in, right? Okay. Turn to him and he'll give us some questions.
So the first question is that video that we just watched available two clubs.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
I can put that on the landing page for everybody.
Chuck wants to be called on so he can talk about global grants.
Chuck, did you have a question or comment?
Well, I thought this would be a good time to say that the ambassadorial scholarship program is no longer, but there are scholarship opportunities. And I'm the new subcommittee chair for the Global Grant Scholarships. So if somebody has questions or is interested in that, they should reach out to me.
Okay, thanks. And let's come back to that under announcements, all right?
Okay.
Perfect. Other questions, Tim?
Not in the chat.
Nothing in the chat. So Maureen and Doug, thank you guys so much. I mean, you really did a couple of things for me and for our audience today. As one, as I mentioned at the onset, I'm really big into collaboration and leveraging the limited amount of time that we have as Rotarians and taking advantage of something that's already been done. You kind of have this program in a box, and I really appreciate your willingness to share it with us. So if your clubs are in our district are looking for a literacy, new literacy program or to start a literacy program,
I have another question.
this would be a great opportunity to learn more from a district that's already got this in place. And the other thing is just encouragement. I mentioned earlier, Kasha, who is an exchange student who continued that relationship with the club and helped us reach way beyond our borders and what we could do. And the same thing is happening here with Janet and her experience with the Beaverton Rotary Club. So again, think of the contacts that you have and what are the opportunities that your club might pursue with that to increase your impact in your communities and just see where that will take you. Tim has held his finger up to me and said that there is another question.
So the question is, we know that this was happened first in Germany. Is there any other U.S. clubs outside of District 5110 doing this program, or are you guys the only ones currently?
We are the only ones currently, but the Forest Grove Daybreak Club I just gave them all the tools and sample books, and so they're very interested. We've let's see, other clubs around. Maureen, anybody else come to mind?
We presented to Salem Rotary Club, and they haven't decided, but they met Janet. Janet came to one of their new meetings and was well received. And it's a great project. It'll take some time for people to kind of determine how they want to approach this. In terms of cost, we printed 5,000 copies, if that's correct, right, Doug? Yes. I think 5,000 copies. Yeah. And the cost of that was it less than $20,000? Yeah,
it was a little over $20,000 that we raised from our foundation and from angel funders that wanted to be early adopters to the project.
Oh, another question.
There's a number of Rotary clubs in our district that do literacy programs in the schools. Have you had any discussions with other clubs about how this particular book would dovetail in with those kinds of other programs?
Well, I can lead off, and Maureen may want to chime in. We did the dictionary project for years, like many clubs did. We also have book fairs where we fund the kids that can't afford books, give them a voucher so that they can go select a book. And we also do first books. So for kids that don't have their own books. So we have had 3 different book projects, and this is now the 4th. Maureen, other thoughts?
I didn't hear the whole question that Tim shared. I missed the first part. Is it about
how does it dovetail with other literacy projects that Rotary clubs have?
Yeah, I think it dovetails beautifully. Literacy is a key issue for us in Beaverton School District. We are a very diverse district, probably the most diverse district in the state for a district our size. And because we're at about 39,000 students. But I think it's well received. I think when you come to schools and share a project like this, schools are receptive because they see the value in it. They are all trying to get kids to level in reading well and being strong readers. And so having an engaging program, I think really makes a big difference.
So one of the benefits of this book that I see, having been an educator, is it not only is about literacy, but it's also about goal setting, and just your regular run-of-the-mill kid book doesn't necessarily focus on a skill like this one does, besides the literacy.
And actually, Janet is working on a follow-on book. Let's see, Maureen, I think you need to mute. A follow-on book that will go through the alphabet to talk about various animals. And so there's going to be a follow-on book down the road. It's going to be, it's a fun thing.
That's it.
All right, that's great. That's all the questions that we have in the chat box. Thanks to both of you very much for taking your morning and joining us today. I invite you to excuse yourselves and go and enjoy the rest of the morning that's left while we continue the rest of our meeting. Thank you.
We will, and we'll put our contacts in chat when we invite anybody to contact us directly.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye, you guys.
Bye.
Okay, and for the rest of you, that's our first hour. So I think we're going to take 5 minutes at this point, take a little stretch, fill up your coffee. Tommy fills up her water, and we'll be back here in 5 minutes to resume the rest of our meeting. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to go ahead and keep rolling here. I'm going to share my screen, see where we're at in the agenda. We're going to be talking about a couple things going on in the district. And Nelson mentioned the first one that you see on the screen here is the Club Learning Assembly, which is April 13th. I think relative to this meeting, what's significant about this is at that meeting, we will be doing the district grant training for those of you or members of your club who will be writing the 24-25 district grants. Actually, that training is going to be a hybrid because I'm still going to be on the road. So you can actually attend the CLA, take this class, and then Tim and I will come in remotely to do that.
That'll be recorded.
And then we will record it. That allows us to do that so that you can review it again, or if you were unable to attend this one, which is mandatory if you're the grant writer for your district grant project for this coming year. This year, I'm also adding a very short segment, probably no more than a half an hour, for the club treasures. This is new. It hasn't happened before. But those of us who review the district grants, I think we can do a better job in incorporating all of us into making sure that the club is qualified and ready to support the grant according to the terms and conditions. And that includes your club treasurer, who handles the funds and writes the checks, to paying expenses versus the grant. So we're going to build in a little piece for them as well. So please make a note of that date. That's going to be important going forward. Also, Cindy asked me to share that in Italy, there is, for those of you who want to travel in the end of April, there's a project fair that that district is organized where they're sharing projects. You can share your projects that you're looking for partners for. Other clubs will be in attendance. So we wanted to bring that to your attention, and there's their website for you to find out additional information. And lastly, we want to talk about Global Scholars. Carol, I'll invite you to unmute and jump on here and make your comments. And then Chuck, I'm going to have you follow that up, please. Are you there?
Sorry, Leanne, I lost the screen all of a sudden.
Okay, I thought I was talking to myself. Good.
Thank you. There's a bit of a story here, but it's a great story, so I'd like to share it with you. I think all of you will remember August 15th, 2022, when the United States pulled out of Afghanistan. By then, we'd been in touch with a Rotary Peace Fellow candidate for over 2 years. His name is Tamim Ibrahimi. He was referred to us by Bianca Neff, who had mentored him in Afghanistan and has been in our district a couple of times. From his application, interviews, and outstanding references, we found him to be one of the most outstanding candidates we'd ever identified. Chuck managed to get him a global grant. You might remember that through our past history together, to attend SOU, but we were really concerned that he would not be able to get a visa to the US because he'd been turned down twice already. So our Rotary E-Club of the state of Jefferson in our district sponsored him for a Rotary Peace Fellowship. In late October 2022, he was awarded a fellowship to the University of Queensland in Australia. By that time, we'd also made numerous attempts from contacts around the world to get him and his small family out of Afghanistan, but we were never successful with that. So he then could not get a visa to enter Australia either. And his fellowship was deferred for a year. After a year, he was unsuccessful, and this fellowship was extended again, the deadline, twice. Then 3 weeks ago, his visa and the visas for his family came through. So he is now safely, I think, in Iran, Tehran, and will leave for Brisbane in 4 days. His daughter, Zeb, is 10, and younger daughter, Zora, will turn 6 on February 3rd in a new country where the education of females is allowed. Since the Peace Fellowship only pays for the fellow and his or her fellowship, and not for the family, we'll be looking for ways to educate his young daughters. But I cannot tell you, after 4 years of uncertainty, how happy we are that he is now on his way to Brisbane. Thanks a lot.
Wow. Yeah, Carol and Chuck, thank you for that. What a journey. And that's a happy celebration. I actually got little goosebumps there, Carol, when you were talking. That's truly remarkable and shows us the power of Rotary, what we're able to do when you get two great Rotarians like you guys making something happen. So thank you very, very much. That's exciting. Chuck, are you still on the call? Did you want to come back in and talk about Global Scholar in your chair position this coming year?
Yeah, thank you very much. Carol's really been working hard to help Tamim. It's amazing trying and he is out of Afghanistan now. Global Grant Scholars is the new ambassadorial scholar program. It's different in many ways, but one of the main ways is that it is more like a global grant where an international or a host club needs to be involved. But our district, Tommy Drake has done a great job with these over the last half dozen years, I think. Many of you know the RLC Water Diplomacy program, where we've sent scholars to Oregon State University, part of a 3-university program for them. But what I wanted everybody in the district to know is that if you know of graduate level individuals that would like a scholarship, there is a possibility that we may be able to help. Our district has continued to use district designated funds, DDF, to help with that. So anyone that might be interested in talking more about that should contact me. So that's it. Thank you.
Great, Chuck. Thank you. Okay, quickly, a few comments from me about district grants. An important date coming up, the fourth quarterly grant meeting is April 6th. And that one I believe is going to be in person. In fact, Cindy, have you selected a location for that yet? We'll come back to that. But what,
Yeah, Eugene at the Mission.
okay, great, thank you. So after that, the foundation executive subcommittee will meet. That's the DG leadership team, Cindy, myself, Hal as stewardship chair. And annually, we need to set what the district grant match will be from for your district grants. We also need to set the DDF match for global grants, and then any other revisions based on changes that Rotary International Foundation has made or at the district level for grants. So that's a really important meeting that will be taking place. And once those decisions are made, that's going to have an influence on the program that Tim and I will be presenting at the Learning Assembly later in that month, because that's how you'll be queuing up on your district grants. So that's going to be an important date. Again, there's your second opportunity there. So looking at where we are now with district grants, all the money except for the district sponsored grant for RILA has been out. Clubs are actively doing their projects. So about this time of year, we look at if clubs have wrapped up their district grants for the 23-24 Rotary year. I encourage you to start uploading your documents, your receipts, getting everything done so you can just wipe the slate clean and focus on the new district grant that you'll be putting together for the next Rotary year. Every year, Kathy Poole said it, I'm going to say it, is please don't take just pictures of things and upload them because they're too small for anyone to read. And then we're coming back to you and asking you to upload PDF or Word documents. So let's just do it right the first time there. And we'd love to see some photos on what you're doing to share publicly the impact that you've had on the community with your project. So not too early to start wrapping up your final reports on and working with, there are Tim, myself, Hal, and Mike Dillard, who are, one of us is your coach and mentor for your district grant. So if you need some help on that, if you're the first timer, please reach out, because it'd be great to get you started on this now, ready to go. I think it's important for us to also let you know that once you've done that final report, it does not require the signature from your club president. It's just, you're the project manager, you're the one doing the report, you know the most about it, then you can sign that and submit it to the district. So your club president does not have to sign that.
There's a question.
Oh, there's a question, Tim's telling me.
The question is, if the training for district grants is mandatory, what about those who can't attend? So
if the training, it's not if, the training for the person writing the district grant for the 24-25 Rotary year, it is mandatory that that person attend the district grant training. It will be live on that date, the 13th, and also recorded, so you can watch that recording and follow the 4-way test and just let Hal know that you have viewed it, and that satisfies the requirement.
Another question.
Okay.
You mentioned JPEGs versus PDF. Does that include photos of the project?
No, the photos are fine. It's the writing part of it. So don't take pictures of documents and of receipts and send those in. But a JPEG is certainly appropriate for a photograph. Good question. Anything else, Tim? Okay. So just want to share a couple of things there with you, and then we're going to move on. So I'm going to invite your Global Grant Chair, Julie DeCiro, for this next section. And this is where the fun happens here. So while Julie's maybe unmuting herself and getting ready to go here, again, I welcome all of you who have joined us for this first time on a Saturday morning grant meeting. For today, you are part of the grant committee. So as we hear the grant proposals and ask for the district designated funds that have been requested, you get to vote, and Tim will do that electronically today. So at the appropriate time, Tim will put that vote up, and we'll take a few minutes for those votes to come in and then move on. As you saw in the packet that I sent out with all of the grant applications this morning for your review, 2 of the projects that you're hearing today are asking for additional club cash. And because there are 2, what I would like to do is get the decisions made for the district designated funds that they're requesting, hear all the grant proposals, and then at the end, we will come back and I will be asking you to support with additional cash if your club is able, or you would like to as an individual to do that. So I want everybody to have equal footing going forward. So we'll do that at the end. Okay, Julie, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see everyone. And thanks for the great turnout. 70 people, that is really wonderful and remarkable. So good to see you all. So we have quite a bit of work to do today. So maybe next slide, you could go to Leanne. And this is really our vision for what we would like to do with our global grant projects. So we've been working on improving the services that we offer to clubs as they submit and complete global grants with the end in mind that we have many successful international projects. You know, the first hurdle, of course, is just getting them applied for, and that is a bit complicated, but very doable. And so we want to be able to make sure that we're giving you the support and help that you need so that we can achieve this vision of how we can be serving internationally in our district. So next slide, please. So we do have a global grant support team, and this gets a little bit confusing because we also have a district international representative committee and process. I'm also have another hat that I wear, which is DISC, District International Service Chair. But specifically, this team is here to support folks with a global grant. So once a club goes through the pre-proposal process that we're going to be seeing today, they will be assigned a mentor from this group that will then help them through with the actual submittal of the application in the Grant Center on the RI website. So this is our team, myself, Ralph Christensen, who you're going to be hearing from later today. He's got a project to present. John Neumeister from the Rotary Club of Eugene Metro, and Larry Rhodes from the Rotary Club of Eugene Airport. So all people who have had experience with global grants and that can help support you through this process. So here's what we're trying to do to support you. First of all, I know when I wrote my first global grant, there was not much support available from the district. And so I was very dependent on getting feedback back and forth from RI staff. And at that time, the RI staff is not nearly as responsive as they are now. And that's kind of a cumbersome way to get things done. So our first goal with all of this is to provide strong mentorship and support throughout the whole process, right from the very beginning when you decide you want to do a global grant process until you submit your final report after the process is complete, that we'll be there to help and support you. And then to also connect clubs with the resources that they need. Particularly, we want to emphasize clubs that may not have done a global grant in the past. Maybe they didn't have a good international partner to get to work with, or perhaps they were just intimidated by what seemed like a tough process, so that we can give you the help and support that you need to be successful in your project application. And then when we submit that global grant, we want to make sure that it is completed correctly, that every bit of detail that needs to be included is there, so that when it does get reviewed by the regional grants officer, it's a quicker approval. I know that we've heard some horror stories from clubs in our district who get back pages and pages of comments from the regional grants director. So we've put some strategies in place that we hope will lessen that, so that when you do submit, it's a quicker approval without a lot of additional work on your part. And then, just to help you with the grants module itself. And I do have to say that the people who from TRF who are working on this, They have made the process much more streamlined than it was initially when we went online. And so I do feel it's more accessible and easier to complete now than it's been in the past. So if we can go on to the next slide. So this is how much DDF we have available. And I just want to remind everyone about district designated funds, DDF. How do we get that money? Again, Leanne was saying we have some new folks joining us today, which is always wonderful to see. And basically this money, it follows a pattern. 3 years ago, whatever our district donated to TRF through the World Fund, this is the only part that gets counted. That's why we encourage you to donate to the World Fund. But let's just say our just for easy mathematics, let's say that our district donated $500,000, which, by the way, is something we do. We generally do more than that. So you think, oh, that's a big number, and it is a big number, but you know, I just want to use it for this example. So $500,000 that was submitted 3 years ago by members in our district. Half of that money then comes back to us, $250,000, to go into our DDF account, district designated fund account. Of that $250,000, half of that money, or $125,000, goes towards district grants, and the other half, $125,000, goes towards global grants. And that at least half is required by TRF to go into the global grant side. So that's kind of how we end up with the DDF that we have. So right now, after expending the money and committing the money that we have for district grants, we currently have $194,730 to expend in our DDF account.
Can I make a quick correction? This
Sure.
is Cindy. Yeah, it's the money you donate to the annual fund share that comes back to us 3 years hence,
Yeah,
not
thank
the
you.
World Fund.
Thank you.
And
The World
frankly,
Fund is
there
where it
has
goes.
been a lot of confusion between the World Fund and the annual fund share for our club treasurers. So it's extremely important that every club, when they send in their money to TRF, if the donation is intended to go to the annual fund share, it doesn't ask. You want to make sure you don't click World Fund or just plain old annual fund. You need to
Thank
click
you.
on annual fund share if you want
Thank
the
you,
money to
Cindy.
come back to the
Thanks so
district.
much for that correction. That was my error, and I don't want to confuse people. But what I should have said was that the other half of our $250,000 does go into the World Fund, and that's how the TRF funds the grants with the global grants we do. Thank you, Cindy. I'm sorry for that error. So here is the formula that we're currently using for the funding of our global grants. And so we're using this example because for two reasons. First of all, it's nice round numbers so you can follow it. But secondarily, that it happens to be the way to maximize the most DDF and support that you can get from the World Fund. So the first element that we have to consider is how much club cash is being invested in the project. So the club cash does not just need to come from the sponsoring club. It can come from other clubs, and you're going to see us try to raise some money for some of the grants that we're doing today. It can come from other clubs in our district. Generally, that needs to be clubs that are in 5110. That's our general process for what we do. We generally support those clubs that are in our district. So just for this example, let's say that the person bringing this forward, the club bringing this forward, was able to put together $15,000 in club cash. That $15,000 is then matched and doubled by our district designated funds, DDF. So if you put in $10,000, you get $20,000 in DDF. $15,000 would give you $30,000, and that happens to be the cap for the amount of money that you can get in DDF. So if you put in more club cash from that money is kind of standalone money, because not only does it not get matched for our DDF, but it also does not get matched when it goes to TRF for the World Fund. So as you heard earlier, there was a question about the 80%. It used to be that the World Fund matched club cash at a 50% rate and the DDF at a 100% rate. And because of this, what we heard this morning about the World Fund being exhausted too quickly, that has changed. And so now the club cash is matched only at the district level in DDF. And then our DDF money is matched at 80% by the World Fund. So you can see here by a $15,000 investment, you end up with a $69,000 project. So that's a pretty good match, even though it's not quite as generous as it used to be. And Leanne mentioned that we'll be talking about what our DDF match will be in next year for global grants and for our district grants. But for all the ones that are coming forward today, it is a 2-to-1 match up to $30,000.
Okay, there's our first project.
Actually, I want to start with Jim Lefevre, if that's okay.
Oh,
Leanne.
that's right.
And so Jim, if you could come in. So Jim Lefevre, you may remember, came to us last spring, for those of us that are regular attenders at these meetings, and we approved a water project in Cozumel, Mexico. And once our district procedures state that once it's approved, you have 6 months to submit your actual application. And due to some unforeseen slowdowns for things that were required by the district grants officer, the regional grants officer, Jim's is coming to ask for an extension of that 6 months. So Jim, if you could come in and tell us about what's going on with the Cozumel project.
Hello, Jim Lefevre here. And I want to thank everybody for supporting the project that I put together with the Rotary Club in Cozumel, Mexico. Personally, I'm a bit frustrated because I think this should have all been done with. But the TRF grant chair of District 4195, Rebecca Mendoza, has been reviewing this project and put forward some requests, some specific requests regarding in a school curriculum for the 2 schools that are involved in this project. And unfortunately, this kind of has to be coordinated with the club in Mexico. There's not a lot that I can personally do. And the gentleman in charge of this project with the Cozumel Club, Nemesio Intrin Balan, unfortunately, his son died very tragically in September, and he's been in a lot of grief. And I've been trying to work with other members of the club to help with this project, but there's been some confusion with supplying what Rebecca Mendoza, the TRF chair of District 4195, has requested in order to finalize the grant submission. And so right now, I'm kind of in a holding pattern waiting for 2 things. One curriculum for EST 6 school and 1 curriculum for the Plenum school. And so I'm asking for a little bit more time to get this done with. Now, my wife Jolene and I will be visiting Cozumel in March of this year. And I am in contact with Isaac, who is also involved with the Cozumel Club, trying to help solve this issue and this problem. But I'm having a problem with just the other club finalizing all of this. And so I need a little more time.
So what Jim is asking for is a 6-month extension of the deadline so that he can continue to get the things that he needs done. And just a little bit of a correction, Jim, that Rebecca Mendoza actually is the regional grants officer for that area of Mexico. She's part of the TRF staff. And so that she is the one that will eventually approve the grant. So I think that by working with her up front, like you have been doing, once it actually does get submitted, I think it's going to get approved pretty quickly. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's been slowed down by this requirement. So what we'd like to do now is have the members vote on extending this grant for 6 months. The DDF has already been designated for this project and is on hold for that. It's been sequestered for this particular project. So it's not a question of any more DDF. It's just a 6-month extension.
And how much was that, Julie?
23,000.
Thank you, Jim. Hey, Tim, would you launch the poll?
Yeah, it's gonna look like a DDF approval, but it's.
Well, we're using a generic question. So basically, yes, if you are granting Jim an extension on the DDF that's already been approved. I think it'd be self-explanatory.
That's right.
Yeah, I got
You have them?
it. Yeah. Tim and I are whispering back and forth. Okay, it looks like we've got all of our responses. I'm going to end the poll and share the results. Can you see that?
Okay, great. So
Perfect.
Jim, you got your extra 6 months.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Go get them.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the new projects that are being presented today. And our first project, we have Jamie Garza online to discuss this one. So Jamie, if you could unmute and start and show and talk to us about this project, which is restoring the mangrove forests in Yucatan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you guys. Let me shut this up. That. Yeah, so this project I'm proposing is for replanting mangroves in the Yucatan of Mexico in Zalima or Zalim del Bravo. And then if we go to the next slide, I'm not sure.
I'll do it for you.
Okay, thank you. So this slide is, it shows the areas where mangroves grow currently and where this location is in the Yucatan, where we're proposing for the this project. Mangroves are a significant feature for coastal areas throughout the world. And the project that we're proposing is right at the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. It's about an hour out of Cancun, so easy to get to. And then if we go to the next slide, mangroves are an essential anchor tenant for a healthy ecosystem in these regions. They provide environment for fish, shellfish, birds, and mammals to raise their young. Without the mangroves, shorelines would erode, fisheries would disappear, and salt water can encroach inland. Mangroves require freshwater flow from the land out to the sea. When that is disrupted, they start to disappear. And urban expansion, new roads, and poor construction techniques have all led to devastating impacts on Merida's mangroves. Next slide. That one's a little bit too far.
I took I'm sorry, I didn't explain this. I took all of it out and I have a summary slide of all the other information about your project that you'll come up to.
Okay, then I'll just continue.
Just talk about your team members here, yeah.
Well, these slide pictures are, this one specifically is just a lady who's already benefiting from the works that have been done in this area, that she's able to help her local community and benefit from the project. Several of the community members down there benefit from these projects, and it helps to grow strength in their community and helps to bring in wealth so that they don't have to sell off their land to developers for it to cause further damage to the mangroves. This one. Sandy, so they do a lot of crabbing down there, and they use for baits. Well, they use the crabs for bait for fishing for octopus and other types of fishing in the area. The crabs live in the forest area, so without that, they wouldn't have the crabs to be able to continue fishing with to help feed the community and just further support the community. And so these are still, all of these people that I will discuss are currently benefiting from the mangroves that have been restored around the area already. Alejandra, she does flamingo tours and other wildlife tours, which help to, that further again create more jobs in their community. She's just kind of one example of one of the local cities that do benefit from this, and how she's able to talk about how the impacts of this help to for their environment and help protect from climate change disruption in the areas. He is beehive. He cultivates the honey from the hives and sells it locally. They actually have a lot of hives down there that they've worked on other level grants for, that they're stingless bees that are good for the community. So it helps for them to, this honey is more desirable. It's more people like to buy it, and it's a little bit more expensive. So it does help again to bring more profit into their communities. And then the last person, it's a local shell artist. So with the shells that she collects from the mangrove, she creates art and is able to sell that art for benefit ending as well. And then I'm not.
Here's your summary slide, Jamie, on
Okay.
who the partners are, what you're doing, your money, and your ask.
Okay, perfect. I'm like, now I'm a little off topic. Anyways, no worries. So the project is for restoring about 50 hectares. I think that's about 120 acres. Calculated to acres versus hectares. The club, the host member down in Merida is Alfonso Ricardo Guzma. And I've been touching base with him for the last 2 years or so, trying to work on getting this project put together. The other club partners on this would be the WWF and Sinistava is one of the local universities down there. So they'll be taking measurements. The fund budget is for 60. Total project
So
spending.
just to clarify, go ahead, Jamie.
The total project spending would be 66,200. But the DDF funds would be 24,000, and the matching funds would be 19,200. Go ahead, Julie, sorry.
So this project is fully funded and does not need the support of anyone donating towards this project. The club was able to collect the money that they needed to go. So the request that's in front of us right now is to approve $24,000 in DDF towards this project, which of course is in the new area of environmental. So this will be our second project in the district that is working on an environmental project. So I think we'll open it to the floor for questions. If you could just go in the chat and write your question, if you have any questions for Jamie about this project.
Julie, pardon me
Yeah.
for protocol. What I'd like to do is call for a motion in a second.
Oh,
and
okay.
then we'll have the discussion.
I move, this is Cindy, that we approve the DDF request of 24,000 for the mangrove project.
Thank you,
I'll
Cindy.
second
Do
it.
I have a second?
Yes, Bruce Reese.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, now you can open up for discussion. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Leanne. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve 24,000 in DDF for the Greater Bend Club for their mangrove restoration project. I'm going to ask Tim again to put up the electronic poll, and we'll take a vote, and then I'll
get discussion.
No, we should do questions. We should, if anybody has a clarifying
then I
question
was
before
right the
they
first
vote.
time. Okay. Slow me down. Got it.
Got it. Yeah. So let's just see if there's any questions from the,
Eric, did you have one?
well, I think people are going to the chat.
Yes, I do. Maybe it's a couple questions, but is this 50 hectare parcel, is it an isolated area or is it part of a larger mangrove area?
It is part of a larger mangrove area that they hope to continue to work on each west.
Total correctly. So then this is an area within the larger mangrove area that's been degraded for whatever reason and needs restoration?
Yeah, there are healthy parts of this mangrove that is where they'll be taking the, I remember the exact translated term, it starts with a P, but the small trees that are like seedlings, and they'll be taking a certain amount that aren't going to disrupt the healthy part of the mangrove and replant those ones in the degraded areas of the mangroves.
And will there be some guard or some things put into place to safeguard against future degradation?
Yes, for the local community, they're going to be working with the local community on restoring that area and kind of making sure that the degradation doesn't happen future. So currently what had happened, why it did get degraded, is there was a main highway that was put through, but the canals weren't opened, so it shut off the canals to this mangrove when they built the highway. So part of this restoration would be to trench out the canals and open those back up for the proper flow to come back in, and they will be testing the solidity of the water levels and the height of the water levels to make sure that everything's good to move forward with replanting in those areas.
Thank you, Jamie.
Tim, other questions?
So who's doing the planting? Are they getting paid? Is it Rotarian participation, and is there local education happening?
Yes, there is local education that will be happening through the university and the WWF. They've already gone in there and are working with the community on this. So they're kind of spearheading training and creating the jobs to help get this back to proper healthy mangrove area.
So when you say jobs, that are people getting paid to do this?
Yes, part of the budget would be paying some of the community members to be hand trenching and replanting of the mangroves down in the areas.
Okay, so what's the time frame on this, and what's the percentage of survival of the new plantings? Any ideas?
Yes, so the time frame they want to start hand trenching to open the canals March, May timeframe, which is right before the rainy season. The replanting would then happen during May, June, as long as the solidity levels and the water levels were of proper portions that they've had in their other areas they've done all over the that where the mangroves grow. The WWF has already partnered and have done this in many other areas and worked with the International Rotary on this as well. They would be replanting in that May, June timeframe, which is right at the beginning of the rainy season, and then the first growth measurements for survivalship would be July, August, and they want to see at least 80% growth for the to actually see that it's working and the trees are regrowing in these areas, and the follow-up measurements would be every 4 months.
Other questions, Tim?
I think
Yeah,
that covers.
there's a lot of questions about the budget, so about the total budget, and it should be 66,600 and
I think the reason it
66,200.
wasn't is because the South Ukiah and Club of Merida they're putting in 11,000 and putting that
Yeah.
in there.
So
So
I
we're
think the
very-
total budget should be 66,200.
Right. I have no idea where I pulled that 61 that you see on there, but I do want to verify the 12,000, the 11,000, the 24,000 request, and then of
Right.
course,
This doesn't, the DDF request doesn't change because it's based on the cash from
Correct.
50 by 10
Right.
clubs.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just, can I talk?
Hi,
This
hi,
is
Chandra.
Chandra. Okay, hi. I participated in a mangrove replanting project in Thailand. And it was very nice that the Rotarians together, we all went out and planted. And that was a really wonderful level of participation. It wasn't as large a project. My perception here is that this has kind of been structured by the WWF, and then we're coming in on it, if that's correct.
Yes.
And then one thing that seemed to be a component that I observed that they discussed there was that the local fishermen were actually part of the process of degrading the mangroves. And so, whereas somebody was coming in and replanting, there was this other facet of that population needing education, because in the presentation, yes, there's local people that are interested in maintaining it, but I was just wondering about other practices and awareness in the general population in the area that could be very potent in terms of maintaining the health of the mangroves, and if there were any other practices that were lending to its degradation besides just development.
From what I've heard, I haven't heard that the fishermen in these areas have done any of the degradation in the areas. I've only heard that it was from development, roads, and kind of cutting off that water supply to the area. The WWF and the university both partner very closely with the community and discussing what the benefits of this would be for the community and how they need the community support and to protect these areas for this to help out their community. Otherwise, it's not going to work if it doesn't have that community.
Is there any, just a little off topic, is there any legislative process that could be helpful for protection from the development? Is that on the plate at all?
I can take a note of that and check. I don't know that they are going to be having government support for this area. Because there is a lot of corruption down in Mexico and in other areas.
Well, my only suggestion would be maybe to incorporate a component of Rotarians participating in the planting, because it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, we plan to make sure that whoever wants to go down there is able to when they start that replanting.
It's 28,000
Okay.
on the RI website that they're asking for.
Okay, thank you. I think Julie will call for the vote.
Okay, so if Tim could put the poll up again, the request is for $24,000 of DDF.
Oh, well.
Is it 28?
Yeah, it's 28,000 on the RI website.
What's 28,000?
They're asking for $28,000 of DDF. If you look at the funding on the RI website for this project.
How
it
that's
shows-
going to be corrected. This was the club there kind of jumped the gun on our process and started this project in the grants center prior to us being aware of it. So it will be corrected.
Okay.
Thanks, Al. Okay, looks like all of our votes are in. I will share the results.
I think so.
And if you all can see that, it was strongly in favor. So Jamie, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great project. And as Julie said, it's really exciting to see us getting involved in the environment. This is our second one. Medford had done another one. Great. Thank you so much. All right, Julie, let's move on to the next one. Wait a minute. That's not right. So it should be Ralph up next time. No,
Should be Ralph, I think, yeah.
no, the Thailand one with the infant mortality.
Okay. And you know, I didn't see Ben in the participants. Is Ben from that club? Is he, Ben, are you here?
I'm here, been here.
Okay, great,
here.
great. He's here now. Okay, good.
There he
I
is,
checked
okay.
before.
I'm
So if
not
we
here
could get
now.
that
I've
one
been
up.
here the whole time.
So do we have it? So this one is, as you can see, a partnership between Greater Corvallis and the Rotary Club of Calasan in Thailand. So Ben is here to tell us about this project.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. This is a really cool project that I'm very excited about. One quick disclaimer before I jump in. I'm not the project lead. Our two project leads, both in the local area and international. One is in Thailand and it's the middle of the night there. And one is on a boat somewhere in the South Atlantic with no Wi-Fi. So I'm pretty familiar with the grant and the proposal, but there may be some questions I'm not able to answer, but I will certainly do my best. My friend Rob Thurston from the Rotary Club of Corvallis is also on the call, and he can hopefully help out if anybody asks a question that I'm not able to answer. So just as some background, Thailand has done a pretty good job overall of decreasing negative outcomes in the maternal and child health area. However, there are some inequities remaining, and those are particularly based on socioeconomic differences. This project seeks to improve outcomes in provinces in the Isan region of Thailand, which is one of the least developed areas of the country. The objectives of the project are twofold. One, to provide equipment to a couple of hospitals, and two, to provide appropriate and culturally sensitive information on prenatal and infant health care to an existing network of volunteer health educators who are based out of the hospitals and located in the villages. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that network of volunteer village healthcare coordinators in a moment. The project goal is to cut infant mortality in the target area by 50% in 5 years and to reduce it to that of the US and Europe in 10 years or less. On the equipment side of things, we're partnering with hospitals that are staffed and have space but are under-equipped. The equipment that we propose to provide include a baby ventilator, an incubator, some high flow oxygen therapy units, a couple of infusion pumps, and a vital signs monitor. That is the largest. I'll talk about the budget in a minute, but that is the equipment makes up the largest piece of the budget. The hospitals have agreed to be responsible for the long-term maintenance of the equipment, training their staff to use it, and providing the space and access to that equipment. The training side of things is what I'm really the most excited about. I've seen this work in previous projects in the area, and it is just an amazing network of people. The Thai Village Health Volunteers who are located or who are based out of the hospitals with whom we plan to work already includes some mother and infant training, but it's not very well funded. And it's a little bit ad hoc, kind of coming out of other areas that they train in, such as dengue fever prevention, general public health, AIDS prevention, and that kind of thing. For our educational effort, we plan to train maybe around 250 health and education volunteers per district. They, in turn, will run the programs to educate members of the community. For our educational program aimed at mothers and girls, and also through them, their children and families, we plan to reach directly 50,000 individuals per year across the 2 designated hospital districts, plus some others. And similarly, the volunteer trainer education of school children is estimated to impact directly 6,000 people per district. We hope that the education would spread even further within the families and the community at large. And there's some duplication between the family and school educational settings. And this is actually considered to be an important benefit because people will listen to the messages that reach them in several different ways. Just to talk a little bit about the areas of impact, this would be in Calasan City and the suburbs, Nong Han City, which is in Udon Thani province, and some surrounding rural areas. It's all in Rotary District 3340. And just to drill into the budget a little bit more, we're looking for about $50,000 for equipment and about $15,000 for training with a little, very small additional contingency fund. We have a group of local Rotary clubs who have already committed. Greater Corvallis, my club has, Greater Corvallis, the Corvallis After 5 Club, Albany, Greater Albany, and Newport have all committed $2,000 to the project, and the Lebanon, Oregon Rotary Club has committed $1,000. The total local contributions are about $13,000, and the District 3340 Thai clubs have put up $3,100, have committed $3,100. So for our total project budget of just around $65,000, we've got $13,000 of local money, an additional $3,100 of money from Thailand, and we hope that with the district and global or World Fund match, we can get to just over $65,000. This is one of the things that is so cool about this is that we have done similar projects in the past. We did one a few years ago that was for maternal and child health that was in neighboring regions of the area. And going back even farther, we have done a series of renal health projects that were in the same area and used the same model of partial equipment grant and then utilizing this amazing group of local community health care educators. Okay, I think I ran through everything I've got here. Does
Great,
anybody
thank
have?
you.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
Same process. I'm going to have Julie get me a motion in a second, and then we'll open it up for discussion, and then we'll take the vote.
Great. So can we please have a motion to approve $26,000 in DDF?
Keith Nelson from Newport. Yes, I'd make the motion.
Thank you, Steve. And a second?
Well, it's Keith, but that's okay.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And any questions or further discussion?
Yes, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Chris.
So I was just on the financing, the DDF it's DDF, not club contribution from 3340. So does that
Correct.
get?
There's also club contributions, I believe, as well. So when this is this portion, the 26,000 and the World Fund match of 80% of that at 23,280 is showing what our contributions are. But when this gets calculated out, that's why we get to the 65,000, because of course the 3,100 in DDF from District 3340 gets matched at 80%, and there's additional club cash from that area as well. But what we're asking today is just to match the 5110 portion of this with the DDF, and then that will be matched 80%. So we're just showing you the 5110 portion here.
Okay, so the DDF, I was just wondering for the total numbers, because I know in 3340, they pretty much are functioning, from my understanding, with just clubs. So it's just the amount of whatever their contribution is. It doesn't matter for this figure.
For what we're asking today, that is separate from what we're asking for is the match from the 13,000 that local clubs have raised for this project.
Right, yeah. Got it.
Tim, are there other questions?
Yeah, the question is, this grant seems to be a collaboration among 7 local Rotary clubs. How did this evolve and what was Rob Thurston's role?
Well, I think the best thing to know is that we have a past District 5110 Rotarian who is living in this region, Peter Nyholm, and he's the one that kind of coordinated all of this in Thailand. So he's actually the lead author on this grant, and we'll be submitting the application to TRF. So the reason he was able to collaborate and get that much help is because he's actually a member of the Rotary Club of Callison now. So he lives in the area and has been active in promoting this and raising the funds.
Well, and
Yeah,
I
I just might add, this is Cindy, that Rob Thurston spearheaded the notion that the Corvallis and Albany area clubs ought to work together to leverage their dollars, much like the Eugene area and the Southern Oregon area work together.
That's correct.
And I would like to add that our relationship with 3340 goes back to group study exchange and has been going on for almost over 20 years. So we have a very deep relationship, and their efficiency of implementing projects and collaboration is stunning. So
yeah, it's
wonderful.
another example that over these partnerships that start years ago and over time it gets there's such a strong collaboration that it really helps with the success of these projects.
Tim, do we have any other questions?
No.
All right, and then we will be call for the vote. Tim, would you put up the? Thank you. Tim's disappointed we don't get to vote. All right, we're going to end the poll. So that's it. Anyway, congratulations, Ben.
Wow.
Your request has been approved.
Thank you so much. I am so appreciative of the work that you all are doing in this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the fun works, putting this together. Yeah, making it happen. Wonderful. All right, let's move on to the next one. Looking at the clock here, Marlon.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I am sponsoring with the Central Point Rotary Club via a consortium of our 9 Rotary clubs in the Rogue Valley, 8 of which have donated $1,000 each towards the purchase of an X-ray machine for the first community hospital in Jajinja, Uganda, and for a commercial generator to support the electrical requirements in case of a brownout or blackout. We have raised the $15,000, so we're asking for the $30,000 from the district designated funds, and then the 80% match from the World Fund. I'd like a little history here, these slides. This hospital was actually the brainchild of a Dr. Seth Franklin Muongozi in Uganda. A little history on him, because people sometimes are a little worried about Africa. His dad was a school teacher who developed a bad downturn in his health, could no longer work, so he could not send his son to school. Dr. Franklin now started medical school and had to drop out, at which point he then went to work for a safari company where he learned the ropes, and then he started his own company called Jungle Medical Missions. And uses that as support money now to get back to medical school. He graduated #1 in his class and then proceeded on to form his dream come true, building this hospital. It was strongly built with local help from the community, local supplies from the community, and only went outside of the area for those equipment things that he could not get in the local region. I asked him one day while they were building this hospital, and shortly they have opened it and they're doing some surgeries there. And I said, what happens when the power goes out? And he says, well, we just light candles and try to continue doing our procedure. And I thought, wow, we need some sustaining power source. So we've gone the route of a commercial generator that we can bring in and have as part of the hospital. Also, as on the X-ray equipment, this would be the first X-ray machine there. Currently, if a patient needs an X-ray, now the town is located south of Kampala, and so they either have to take a canoe and paddle it across Lake Victoria to get to Kampala to a hospital, or they can go on lengthy bus rides or 7 to 8 hour ride to the hospital to get an X-ray. Once they're there, they have to pay for the X-ray. They do not really have the income themselves. So the typical process is family members then sell personal goods that they own, raised enough money for their family member to get to the hospital and get the X-ray. So providing this X-ray will do a great community service. It's trying to find a number here. We've got a community of like 55,000 people, a number of villages in the area that can access this, communities. So it's really a big thing to provide modern medical care to the people of this region. Not sure what else I can say. We have been supporting neonatal care unit down there through district funds, grants that I've written. We've been involved. Our local Central Point Club started by drilling a well to provide water to the hospital, and we've provided like infant care incubators for their neonatal care unit. And now we're stepping up to try to make this a fully functional hospital to serve, like say, some 55,000 people in the community. I don't know how much time I have, but
So I think what we need to do here is just review this, what the request is. And so,
Okay.
as Marlon mentioned, there's been $11,000 already raised by various clubs in Jackson County who have contributed towards this project. They are asking to try to raise $4,000 at the meeting today. And the process we're going to use for that is to do that after all of the projects have been completed. So what we're doing right now is assuming that the club is able to raise the additional $4,000. So it would be a total of club cash of $15,000. The DDF request for this is $30,000. The World Fund match will be then $24,000. And so the total budget for this project is $69,000. So the process we're going to use is to ask the participants to vote on this, and then we'll hear two more presentations, and then we'll try to raise money at the end. If I got
Thank
that
you.
right, Leanne?
Correct.
Okay, so if we could have a motion to approve a DDF request of $30,000 for this project to provide needed medical equipment for a hospital in Uganda.
So moved.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second, this is Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy. Any questions or further discussion?
Yeah. Who's the host club for this grant, and what is their participation?
The host club is the Mackendie West Rotary Club of Kampala. They have worked hand in hand with Dr. Franklin in putting together this hospital. And currently they're working in conjunction with Dr. Franklin and the hospital. I think next weekend they're doing a dental clinic where they're providing care for the local people. So they have been pretty much hands in hand with the process from day one of this hospital.
Thanks.
A little asterisk I'll put on here with pride, Bear Creek Valley, inside the hospital, we have an eye clinic that we have provided the medical or the eye equipment for.
And if I can add something, in Uganda, there's about 400 medical x-ray machines for 45 million people.
Thank you, Chuck. Tim, do we have any other questions?
I'm not seeing any.
No questions. Let's, you want to call for the vote, Julie?
Yes, can we please show us the poll to approve this grant?
There is a question I'd like to answer that just popped up. May I?
Okay.
Okay. The hospital is designed to provide free medical care. There's also a wing of the hospital that is provided for the community that can pay. So the way it's being designed is that the pay for service portion of the hospital will support the for free portion of the hospital. So it's going to be pretty close to a self-sufficient project. Maybe 100%.
Right. Tim, can you launch the poll for me, please? Okay, 2 more beats and I'm going to close the poll. Okay, I'm going to end the poll, show the results. Congratulations, Marlon. And I think
Okay. Thank you.
to this is the first project for the Southern Oregon Jackson County clubs and their consortium newly formed. So congratulations to all the clubs. That's a great start.
Thank you.
Sure.
Did I
Much
share the
appreciated.
results?
I tried to. I did.
Oh,
I don't know if I did.
we're working the technique here. Bob, Nickel, you have your question up. How are you, buddy?
Did we want to move to our next?
Yeah, we do. I thought Bob had a question.
Okay, great. Let's move to our.
Okay, Ralph.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say that our club, Downtown Rotary in Eugene, as well as Airport Rotary, have collaborated with Dr. Franklin, and I highly respect him. We have a kind of a bit of a convoluted process to contribute to this grant, but I'd like the international club down in Southern Oregon to contact me, and I'll tell you about our process. We'll try to work toward contributing $1,000 to this.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Thank you. Ralph, good morning, sir.
Good morning. I needed to unmute myself.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So do you want me to go over both of the asks that I'm having today, Leanne?
Can I give a little introduction to this, if that's okay, Ralph? And then
please
we'll have
do.
you go. So this is a somewhat unique project. So we are actually going to be doing this in 2 different parts. And the first thing that we really need to discuss, that part of this, part of what Ralph is asking for this particular project is for us to consider the contributions from the clubs in Togo who are supporting this project as part of District 5110 DDF allocation. The reason for that is that the amount of money in DDF available in Togo at the district level is almost non-existent because it's such a impoverished area. And so the club contribution that is coming from the club in Togo is not going to be matched in any way. And so he's asking us to consider that to be part of our district's DDF. Our policies and procedures outline a process for that happening, and that is that the participants at this meeting would have to approve that because it's outside of our regular practice of only supporting DDF from 5110 clubs. So there's that process that we have to go through first. But I think before we ask you to vote on that, I'm going to have Ralph review the project so you see what he's asking for. And then we can make the decision about the DDF. And then if that is approved, and then we will do a vote on approving all of the DDF for the project. So, but Ralph, if you would then just go over the project that you're proposing.
Sure. So behind the vote, you see a green tricycle piece of equipment. And what this project is for a ambulance service that can service this rural kind of village community. And these people in this village have been asking for this for over 10 years. And we have always told them, no, you have no way of supporting it. You have to have some way to be able to keep the equipment running, keep the people who are going to use the equipment either employed or how they're going to volunteer for that. And so we went through that whole process with them, telling them no for a decade. They have finally, through other means that I won't go into, have found a way to be able to support this. It is not supported by having the people who use the service pay for it. So what they're going to do is operate this. There are 4 medical clinics, one of them in the village of Nano, 3 others in surrounding villages nearby. And those villages, each one will have one of these units assigned to them. Now, we gave them a budget that we thought that they could handle, and we knew that there was equipment available that they could use like this, but we never suggested it to them. What we asked for them to do was to come up with a way that they could have this kind of equipment that they could support, that they could keep running. It needed to have medical personnel on it. So the nurses at the medical clinics have indicated that they will volunteer to be manning these pieces of equipment when they go out to service people who have had accidents, a bad pregnancy, something else that's going on, sudden illness, whatever that an ambulance might be used for. The nearest hospital where there's actually inpatient care operating facilities is 25 kilometers away. And we were there in the village working with them, and one of the many funerals that we heard going on was for a teenage girl who was having a bad delivery from her pregnancy. Both she and the baby died because they had no way to get her to the hospital where they would have performed a C-section and saved her life and the baby's life. And so, you know, we understood the need that they had for the last decade. It's been asking for this, but it does us no good to put an ambulance there that they can't keep running. So now they have a way to keep it running. And when it's not being used for emergency procedures, it will go out into the community and they will be teaching public health, health care, first aid, the kind of things that the people at the clinics would like to have out in the community, so the community knows. And it's really kind of special the way these people have really kind of responded to this. And so they have indicated that they have a way that they are going to provide this. And now they have a way to do that. And one of the really special things is that not only are they providing an ambulance service for the main village where we have been working, but they have used this opportunity to put that medical and health information out to villages who are around them, which is what we asked them to do 10 years ago, is to take the things that you're learning and spread them out to the people around you. So we just think it's a wonderful way to increase public health education, which you've heard a lot about. Education needs to be attached to many of our projects. It's a great way to get education out. And so that's what this is doing.
So the first vote that we'll need to hold is to see if the participants in the meeting agree to consider the money coming from the local club to be matched with District 5110 DDF.
Can I make a comment about that before we
Please do,
that?
Ralph.
It turns out this isn't just coming from another Rotary Club, though they have contributed. The Kinkasi Dapong Rotary Club, they have contributed, but this is a community that makes less than $1 a day. So these people are $350 a year is a good general estimate of what these people make. Their local village government said, we will contribute. The health committee, which has a way now to generate funds, which is really what's going to support this, they've contributed. The health clinics have contributed money, and they have raised $3,000 US from this poor community. And when we put a Rotary project somewhere, we put a Rotary sign on it and say this project was brought to you, and then they list out the clubs that have contributed to that. And one of the hardest things we have to overcome is if you put the money in, they think it's yours. And I really want this community to know that they are a major contributor to this project. They are the ones who brought it forward. They're the ones that brought forward the money. So it's not all coming just from a Rotary Club. And they suggested sending the money to us and putting it in our Rotary Club, and then it would have went through kind of seamlessly. But no, what I want is to be able to put a sign on the side of every one of these ambulances that says, this ambulance service is provided by the people of Togo, Nano, Togo, and these Rotary clubs helped us. So that the main emphasis is their work. They are the ones who have made this happen. So it's their project, which is exactly what you want if you want a project to be self-sustaining.
And so what we need to show from is that the Rotary Club is going to be controlling that portion of the fund. So basically what they did is they conducted fundraisers, as we do, to provide their part of it. But I think what Ralph is trying to emphasize is how difficult it is for them to raise $3,000 and what a sacrifice it is for them to do that. But in order for us for it to be considered for the DDF match, it has to be coming through the club. So I think we kind of have to look at it as the club conducted a fundraiser and raised funds through a variety of methods to get this together. So thank you, Ralph.
This is Holly Cabell, and I would like to move that the district use DDF funds to match that. One of the grants that I brought to the district several years ago, you gave me funds matching an out-of-district funds. And so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Holly, for that. And so we have a motion on the table. Can we have a second?
I second.
Thank you very much. And yes, this is just to reiterate what Holly was saying, is that this is not unheard of that we've done this in the past. It's just that we have to go through this process in order to approve it. So are there any questions just about that portion of it, about the use of the matching the DDF from Africa?
Tim, any questions?
I'm looking.
He's checking for us.
Just for clarification, does that mean it's a $6,000 DDF match?
Well, it will be a $6,000 plus the $1,500 that Ralph is trying to raise. So we're actually trying to match 7,500.
Correct.
So the question is, how do we know that the district in Togo doesn't have match money?
How do we
It's
know
the same
that?
process that we use where, you know, with any district grant, we ask the local club to inquire at their district level if there's any DDF to match, and the answer there was no. That happens in, you know, anytime we bring a project forward and there's, you know, we ask the partner club, the host club, to see if they can get DDF.
So there was a question, Ralph, about if you have a map for Togo and where this district is located. Keith Nelson posted a link in the chat, so if you want to look at that, you can go right to a map of Togo and see. But Ralph, could you give us just a bit of a description of where Togo is and where the district is located within the country?
Sure. If you look at if you think of a map of the continent of Africa, and there's that big bite out of the west side where it's going east-west and then turns and the side of Africa goes south. If you go straight up from that, you're in Togo. And it's about 40 miles wide and about 400 miles long going north. It's tropical down at the coast, but by the time you get to the north end of Togo, where this project is, you're in the Sahel. You're in the area that is strongly influenced by the Sahara Desert. It's semi-arid. They have one rainy season a year. It doesn't come every year, but it comes most years. And they have the one rainy season where they grow all the crops and things that they're going to eat for the next year. So, yeah, it's a kind of a tough place. And the soil is about 1.5 billion years old, and most of the nutrients have been washed out of it.
Great. Well, Julie, how about we call for the vote?
Okay, let's call for the vote.
Tim?
We don't have a motion or a second for.
Yes, we did. We had a motion and a second.
Yes, we did.
To approve.
Not for the DDF, to approve going outside of policy and use the DDF match.
Oh.
So Tim's going to launch the poll. So this is just again
variance.
Voting to accept a variance on our existing policy and use our DDF to match the.
Did that launch?
No. Did that launch, you guys? Tim's not sure.
No.
Nope.
Nope. No.
Nope. You got no's, Tim.
Okay. Seems to be frozen.
Okay, let me try it.
You also have a hand raised by Robert Nickel.
Okay, Bob, you want to go ahead?
His hand has been up, hon.
Oh, he just didn't take it down, maybe, Jim.
Okay. Mine's not working.
We can turn on our videos and raise our hands.
Yeah, we could. Let me try something again here.
It's not working for me.
How about now?
There it is. Yes.
So again, just use the yes or no to guide you.
It doesn't like me using the same one over and over.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mobleys, for all you do to make this work.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll.
Welcome.
Share the results. There you go. So there's your first answer, Ralph. Congratulations.
It didn't.
Okay, so
it didn't show.
So
didn't
now
show.
what we need.
It passed like 97%.
Yeah, it came up and then it just disappeared real quickly, so I couldn't see any numbers.
Okay, Jolene, that was on me. I was too quick. Sorry.
Okay, so now the next step in this process is to approve the DDF distribution for the total amount. So just to review again, that we have $3,000 coming from the Springfield Twin Rivers Club, $3,000 from the Rotary Clubs in Nano, and then an additional 1,500 that Ralph is trying to raise at this meeting for a total of 7,500 in club cash. So the DDF request is twice that, which is $15,000, and that's what we need to vote on now. If we could have a motion to approve the $15,000 in DDF towards this project.
I'll make the motion, Keith Nelson.
Okay, thank you, Keith.
I'll
Do we have a
second it.
Second.
Who
Jim
was my
Lefevre.
second?
Jim Lefevre, I second it.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you, Jim. Any further questions? There's a
I
question,
just-
Daniel says, how many units? It's 4 different ambulances.
Yeah, so I just have one question for Ralph. This is one of the poorest countries in the world, and this is quite an asset in the community. Is there any security these things won't just be stolen?
That's a good question.
Well, I can't guarantee they won't be stolen, but they're pretty easily tracked. And the Nano Health Committee already has 3 of these same kind of vehicles that they use to pump sludge from people's septic tanks and latrines. And actually, that's a money-making operation, and that's how they're funding these ambulances' continued use. So that's the money thing that goes into that. And then there's another whole piece of that that also makes money that I won't talk about. So yeah, is that they keep those in a secure area. Yeah, if it was in Lomé, I'd really be afraid, but in Nano, it's pretty good. Everybody knows everything.
Thank you.
Great question, Jim. Thank you. Julie, shall we call for the vote?
Eric had a question as well. Did that
Sorry.
answer it for you, Eric? That's the process for funding the operation and maintenance is through that sludge operation.
Yes, it's funded by a sludge operation. And that sludge, the other part of it is the sludge operation funds a agricultural facility. That way they can safely dispose of the sludge and then use it for fertilizer. And that is working so well, they want to put in latrines in marketplaces in the villages around them so they can gather more sludge.
Right.
It's a unique funding source.
Yeah.
We won't go there.
Yeah, I can think of a whole bunch of things I could say that I probably shouldn't.
Okay, so let's call for the question, please. If you could put the poll up.
Let's see. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yep, must be. I got answers coming in. Okay, a couple more seconds.
And leave it up a little further, longer this time, Leanne.
Oh, I won't be so quick on the, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Great.
Thank you all. And for the people of Nano, I thank you all. That was great.
Okay, Leanne, I think you're next.
Okay. Hey, first off, everybody kind of take a stretch here. We're doing a marathon, but thank you for hanging in there. You are very devoted, and I appreciate your attention to this process. In the information that was sent out prior to the meeting, I did a little cover letter because this is a little bit different for a couple of reasons. For those of you who didn't get it or have an opportunity to read that, I'll do a very brief history. Now, we're now at over 700 days for the war in Ukraine. And back in October of 2022, as I mentioned earlier, this district started working in Ukraine through disaster grants, and then we moved to a global grant where we funded 2 of these mobile emergency clinics, which did include very generous $17,000 in cash contributions from folks who attended the foundation dinner and also from 5 clubs that brought into this. Very quickly, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, this is a very plain box on a trailer that a typical vehicle there can move. So they are mobile. It contains all medical equipment. The contents were, excuse me, selected based on input from Doctors Without Borders who work in war zones. We are adding this year, we are adding solar panels, let's see what else, and also some transportation costs to get them from the factory out into the field. You may have seen some of the newsletters I've been producing about this. Myself and two other partners have been working. This is what we're calling a global grant in a box. We produced a template. This is something easily reproducible regardless of who the host club is. And then working with the Ministry of Health, my team provided the host and the international club with regional hospitals where these units were deployed. Right now we have 60 of these deployed in the eastern region of Ukraine where active war is going on. The two of our units are currently in the Kherson region, and I'm happy to report they are still functioning, seeing 30 to 100 patients a day, even though the Russians in one 24-hour period dropped about 120 bombs or drone attacks in there. Terrible conditions going on there. So this is a little bit different ask, and I was going to use just in another closer shot of the equipment on the inside without some of the stock in place. But I wanted to use this as kind of a twofold presentation. There's a program I became aware of in conversations with Rotarians in Wisconsin called Hearts of Europe. It's sponsored by USAID, and they've extended it. They just work in about 10 countries in Eastern Europe. And again, I included that information in the packet that I sent. Basically wanting you to know if your club is doing work in one of those Eastern European countries, you may have an opportunity to leverage your money further by getting additional 120% from the USAID. So my team and I are kind of doing this as an experiment. District, if you approve this today, we would be one of the first, and also with 5170, which several of you on the call recognize Cecilia Babkirk. She's one of my partners that we're doing this. So we wanted to learn through this process so we could bring that expertise and knowledge back so that any of you wanted to do USAID, we'd have in-district experience with how to do this. So the proposal is to provide one more additional mobile emergency clinic, we call them MECs, into the Ukraine war zone, location to be determined if you approve this. This we're doing a little bit different. I talked to District Foundation Chair Cindy about that, and she encouraged to use this as an educational piece as well as put it before you for consideration. So we're not asking for any money. This would just be district designated funds at that amount you see, $16,150. As we've seen several times now, that's matched at 80% by that World Fund. However, in the bottom left-hand corner, you see this is where the money really starts to leverage itself. We get an additional 120% put in by Hearts of Europe. So that, in my mind, you can work this several different ways, replaces the cash that we would be asking for from our district members or from our clubs. This single unit with the new improvements on it costs $48,450. And they are still taking about 45 days to produce. Active demand, we still hear from the Ministry of Health that they want more. In fact, they'd like them fitted as a pharmacy as well. So that's for future discussion. So there's the request, DDF only at $16,150. And then the sub-grantor on this would be USAID, which requires us to write a separate application. I did learn that Sam Kendall is the staffer at Rotary Foundation, who is the bridge between Rotary and the USAID. He has worked for them. He's also been a Peace Corps person in Ukraine, so he's very familiar with this unit or with this area, and he has really encouraged us to go forward and feels like USAID would definitely support this. So I'm very clear, if we don't get the support from USAID, this is off the table. So Julie, back to you. Did we lose her?
You're muted, Julie.
Thank you. Sorry about that. There was a question in the chat. It said 120% of World Fund is 15,504, not 19. So you want to respond to that, Leanne?
It's 120% of the DDF request.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Looks like there's 2 more questions. I can't
So
see
it should
them.
say DDF, not WF down there at the bottom. 120% of DDF, not World
Oh,
Fund.
yeah, you're right.
Okay. Okay, let's have a motion to entertain a motion to approve 16,150 in DDF for this project.
So moved. This is Cindy O'Neill.
Thank you, Cindy. Do we have a second?
I second.
And who was that?
Tommy Drake.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further question or discussion about this project?
Looks like there's 2 hands, Julie. I can't see them.
I can't either.
Tim?
Oh, this is Jim Lefebvre. I had a question.
Oh, Jim, go ahead.
So this whole thing looks like if it works once, we might be able to use this entire idea going forward for additional units. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. That's a whole fun conversation to have. As I said, we already, oh gosh, you guys, I don't remember the numbers I put in the newsletter, but we have 60 of these units already funded by about over 100, different clubs and individuals. And I think, gosh, I can't remember how many different districts from all over that we've been doing this. And again, we're educating ourselves and working with USAID so we can leverage that money as well, because Ukraine is part of that Hearts of Europe program. The bigger question, Jim, is then just how far can we go with this? Because as you heard me say earlier, building relationships and collaborating and bringing our talents and passions together and then sharing that is, to me, how we're going to get some of these projects done. So this really has been fun and very rewarding for me to participate in this, particularly in an area. I mean, I'm talking to people and they're going, just a minute, the air raid siren just went off.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah. It's just, none of us have done this before. It's just crazy.
Okay, and then
do that. And then you're going to Singapore. Lars is going to be there with some of his other club members that I've been working with, and they will be in the House of Friendship, and they're continuing to raise money so we can continue to put these units in.
Okay, that's good. And then another part of my question, the DDF, if I understood some of the things we've talked about, so if we don't start using up our global DDF or our DDF stuff, it's going to start going away too, correct?
If we don't pay attention to it, yep. If we don't pay attention to it, if we don't understand the formula, if we don't manage it well, and Julie's done a great job. I mean, look at all the projects that came forward today. We're catching up and getting our food back on after the downturn of COVID. Is if that's what it's there for, is spending that, putting great projects in the field, managed by our Rotarians. So if we just sat back and said, well, we're not going to do anything, there comes the point, June 30th of 2026, when there is a formula that the trustees put together, it goes back to the World Fund. If we don't say anything, we can direct it to Polio Plus, or we could put it into an endowment, but it does leave the district in our control at that point if we don't do some great projects with it. And that's what we're all here for.
Yeah. And so the other thing I'd just like to mention about this is you notice that there's no signage on the outside of these units, and that's intentional because the Russians are, definitely targeting medical facilities and infrastructure, so that these are they look like trucks. They don't look like medical units. And that's with intent so that they don't get bombed or
absolutely. And they're, I think I sent out a picture in one of the last newsletters I put together, under a big canopy tree with the military netting over it, to hide them from the drones and it just makes me sick, but that's the circumstances they're working under.
So the question is, why not do two?
The question was, why not do two? I wasn't feeling that big and bold, but I'm in if you guys are in. It won't make any difference to, what the whole process and the mechanism that's in place. So if that comes from those of you today who want to bump this to 2 and make it, 32-3 on the DDF, that's your decision.
I put a motion that we should double this. I'm
I'll
Helen.
second that motion.
Yeah. Okay, how do we want to handle that?
There's a suggestion that we wait until the next meeting to make.
The only reason I would say let's wait is that we again, it just depends on what we want to do here. This is, we generally don't do more than $30,000 on a project in DDF, so we'd have to vote on doing. It just makes this more of a complex approval, I think. However, why don't we do this one to bring one to the next one, and at that point, Leanne will probably have a good idea about whether USAID is supporting.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, and I agree with your analysis, Julie.
Yeah, I think
And we
let's
could just
do one right
duplicate.
now. And I hear the interest, and maybe, so I hear a lot of interest in this. So let's put that on the agenda for our next meeting, and, we can really make some decisions then, because that's our last meeting of the year. We will have gone through any new global grant projects that might be coming forward, and we can see where we're at with DDF and what decision we might want to make. So I would love to table that idea till the next meeting.
I'm happy with that. Tim's got his hand up. Apparently there's a question or comment from the.
Would this mean that we could propose other projects without any club cash with an outside sponsor?
That's right.
Well, yes, with an asterisk by that, there would be, certainly some, there are some terms and conditions and parameters of the Rotary Foundation that we would have to look at. But I think just appreciating the general essence here, part of the action plan, the strategic plan for Rotary International, for us to be, think outside the box and look at who we partner with, how we do that, how we leverage these projects. So that's where USAID is a great outside partner to do this with, and they have an established relationship with Rotary International. And so we're going to take advantage of that. So I think, again, in detail, we'd have to really drill down and see what that would be and if it fits the criteria. But I'm up for being creative. So for future discussion.
So we had a motion on the floor and a second to double this. Can we table that motion? And we need the approval of both the person that.
Yeah, I'll take my second off.
Okay.
And I'll
thank
take my
you.
first off.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Thanks,
so let's
guys.
now move
Appreciate
to
your
approve this
enthusiasm.
project as presented with a DDF request of 16,150, and we need a motion for that.
Oh, Tim's ahead of us. He launched the poll.
Okay, we need a motion before we vote.
I moved.
Cindy had first, and then we had a second.
Okay, I'll second then.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the third, Chris makes.
Oh, that's good. I don't mind.
We're all getting hungry. We've been
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, okay, and as we're polling here, we still have one piece of business to take care of after approving these grants, and that is to see how much money we can raise both for the medical equipment in Uganda and towards the tricycle ambulances in Togo. So
Right, and then also the
please don't go away.
5100. So we also had Ken with the 5100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I told you this is a big, robust meeting, you guys. I'm in it. There's a lot going on here. It's been awesome.
So I'm confused. We've got a motion on the floor, but we're voting without further discussion, or where are we?
Well, Tim kind of jumped the thing here. So Cindy made for one unit to approve the 16,150. Cindy made the primary and Tommy seconded it. So we kind of did a light discussion there. And
Yeah, we can continue to, we can take any questions.
yeah,
I did have a question I put in the chat box.
go ahead, Holly.
Would this mean we could propose other projects without any club cash, but with an outside sponsor?
Well, again, it depends on what the specific ask is. I mean, maybe I can talk with you separately offline, or Cindy can, to really see exactly what you're thinking. I don't want to send you off with a misdirect there.
And quick
At
question, Leanne.
at a theoretical level, yes, but it really depends on who the partner is
Yeah.
and what the project is.
Sure, but
Yeah.
it is setting a precedent.
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
But a question for you, Leanne. This is Cindy O'Neill. Is USAID an official partner of Rotary International? I think that might be one of the criteria we would look at should we approve something like this again.
You could hear me take a deep breath there. What I've learned is that you can be an official partner with Rotary International. You can be an affiliate. You remember back again, I'm back on Ukraine, where there was a project. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. We had a speaker here where they were asking for us to sponsor a family and move them through a United States government program, move them, and get them out of the war zone and get them over here. They were approved by Rotary, but not a partnership with Rotary. So my whole point is, I'm babbling here. There's different levels of affiliation and endorsement from Rotary International. So I would, I'm pretty sure this one is a partnership, and there's absolutely is an established relationship there.
This is not a club sponsored grant. This is a district
This
sponsored
is a
grant.
district sponsored grant. You see up in the left-hand corner there that the district, which is absolutely within the terms and conditions of the foundation, a club or a district can sponsor a grant. In this case, the district is sponsoring this grant. And I would be the lead on that.
Okay, well, we've already voted.
A lot of voting. Sorry, we're all getting tired here.
Yeah. So the next thing I'd like to do is bring forward going back to Marlon with the money that you needed to raise, which was $4,000. So that this money would be to support the Rotary Club of Central Point's project for bringing medical equipment into Uganda, specifically X-ray and a generator. So they need to raise $4,000, and I haven't ever done this in an online meeting, Leanne. So do we want people to put that into the chat? What's the best way to do this?
No, just holler out.
Okay, so if you can then, so if you
Unmute.
could you unmute and state your club name and how much you would like to contribute if you are able to do this?
Thank you.
Hi, this is Vicky from the Illinois Valley Club. We would pledge $500 for the Uganda project.
Thank you, Vicky.
This
Thank
is
you.
Dave Sanders with Springfield Rotary. We will pledge $200 for Marlon's project.
Thank
Thank you.
This is Diane from Bannon, beautiful Bannon by the Sea Rotary Club, and we would pledge $500 to that project.
Thank you. So we're up to $1,200.
And then Bob Nickel made a comment that I encourage Marlon, I'll put you guys in contact with each other to explore some other
Right.
options.
Thank you.
Last call. Okay, thank you, everybody. That's the magic of this meeting. So you got
Okay, and
12
so now we have Ralph's project for the ambulances, the tricycle ambulances in Nano in Togo. And he needs to raise $1,500. And Ralph, Rotary Club of Ashland will do 1,000.
This is Sally with the Rotary Club of Florence. We'll do 500.
Okay.
There's your money. Congratulations, Ralph.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate that.
Great work. Okay, your last order of business, Julie?
Yeah, the last order is we have a request for support of to a project that was initiated in 5100. And it's Cindy, who's presenting that? Is it? Leon, I'm not sure who's presenting that.
Well, it should be Ken from the Rotary Club of Greater Bend. Jamie, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still here.
Can you present this on behalf of Ken for your committee?
Yes, I don't have anything in front of me, but I know that it's for the a medical doctor down in Guatemala. And they are, I believe, down there currently. It's just a project that they were working on. They were hoping to get matching funds for if it's available. Our club did donate 3,000 to it. So I don't really have all that information because I
wanted 3,000 match in DDF.
Yeah, what Ken is hoping for is the Rotary Club of Greater Bend has donated and pledged or already given $3,000 to the project initiated by District 5100 for Guatemala, and they are looking for another match from us of 3,000 from our DDF. That's the request.
We have to vote.
And again, this is a vote, as has happened already, outside of policy. So in order to grant the 3,000 in DDF, it would take a vote to waive policy.
Right. Which is part of our policy. We have to vote.
Which we do that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion. This is Chuck Root.
Thank you, Chuck. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Cindy O'Neill.
Thank you, Cindy. Questions or discussion? So just to clarify, this is a project that is being sponsored by 5100 and supported by a club in 5110. And so they're asking for some 5110 DDF to match the donation that the Greater Bend Club has already made. So not a 2-to-1 match, just a 1-to-1 match.
So we have a question about how much DDF do we have left after these grants?
So the question to kind of help people make a decision that came forward was, Julie had the slide that we had a little over 194,000 in DDF prior to the projects that you have approved today. At this point, you've approved about 111,000 in expenditures against that 194. So this would bring it up, that 3,000, to about 114, plus or minus a few more hundreds in there. So that, by my math, would leave us going into the last meeting of the year with about 80,000 in DDF. Would not quite be, depending on the ask, that could be 2 to 3 global grants that you could still approve in the spring. Any other questions, Tim?
No.
Can you launch a yes or no on this?
What are they voting on?
So what you're voting on would be to waive policy and approve $3,000 in DDF for a project that is being coordinated by International Club up in 5100. Can you see the poll? Yep. They were under 90%, so I'm going to wait a few more minutes while you think about it.
Oh, we don't. What's the price? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to close it.
Share results.
Okay, Julie, there you go.
Okay. All right, I think we're done with our global grant business.
Wow, what a great morning. Thank you very much. Hopefully this didn't disappoint. We had a lot happening here today. So we took care of that. Any last questions from my little dancing guy here?
I just want to give a shout out to Julie. What a great resource. Thank you very much, Julie. She really helped me through all this process.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ralph.
I will second that. You can, and thank you for all the good that you have done in the world and for all the great things that will be forthcoming out of this district, you know, based on all the wonderful projects that you've heard today. And think of the thousands of people that these decisions will impact. That's a pretty good way to head into the rest of the day, I would say. So reminder, get it on your calendar. April 6th at 9 a.m. at the Mission in Eugene will be the last meeting of this year. We've already got a few things on the agenda for that meeting, so that's exciting. Nelson, do you have a comment or question?
Yes, I just want to remind everybody that June 1st is the deadline to submit district grants. And so it's not too early to start talking with your clubs and your members about what you like to do for district grants. So that we can get them in time and they can be considered as part of the process.
Right. Yeah. And this is always an interesting time of year for that, because you have, you know, existing this year's leadership in place, but really on a June 1, you're really looking at, you know, your next year's club leadership to put this in place, particularly if there's a change. So absolutely endorse that, to get started on thinking of what it is that your priorities are in your communities. Cindy, I'm going to turn it over to you as our foundation chair for any last words and comments, please.
Well, thanks, Leanne. You know, I am totally inspired by the smiles that will be on the faces of mothers and children in Africa, by the people of Ukraine who will have a safe place to go get medical equipment, and to the school children in Cozumel for clean water. This is so inspiring, and you all have done a lot of work. It's not easy, it's serious work, but it's a new day in Rotary. We need to create sustainable projects, and a special shout out to brand new member Jamie Garza for putting forth another environmental project coming out of District 5110. I'm so grateful for all of you and your hard work. Take care, be well, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.